Everyone, welcome to video number 5, where I'll be talking about your first initial phone interview and what do you actually do in that quick initial interview to make sure you get invited for the second and third and so on in the interview process. After conducting thousands of interviews in my experience, I get to see what actually makes a strong first impression in a phone interview and what does not. So today I'll be sharing with you kind of the secrets behind the scene so that way you don't make those mistakes and make sure that you keep moving through in the interview process so you can get that job that you really want. My name is Olga and I'm the founder of Revenue Hire, the company that matches people's talents and passions with companies on a mission. So what are those couple things that I want to talk to you about? Well, you got your first phone interview. And usually these days they're pretty short. So they could be 10 minutes, it could be 15 minutes, sometimes it could be 30 minutes. And so you got to remember that up until this point, you are sort of 2D, two-dimensional to the interviewer. And so your job is to add that 3D component with your voice and your presence on the phone and your energy to make sure you stand out, among all the other resumes that they're looking at, because I guarantee you're not the only one. So use this time wisely, and here's what you gotta do. First thing, the way you answer the phone, right? Make sure obviously you're on time, and if you haven't watched the previous 4 videos, please do, because they kind of get you ready up until this point, so that way you can have a really successful first initial interview. So you answer the phone. And the first 10 to 15 seconds are super crucial, right? Because this is your opportunity to make that first initial impression. So if you're answering hello, there's no energy on the phone, that's automatically kind of like, well, what is your energy? Are you bringing everything you got to this interview? Because in our brain, there's this thing running that says the way you do anything is the way you do everything. So theoretically, for your interview, you've got to bring your best game. Make sure you do. So answer the phone with your name. Hello, this is Olga. You should be expecting that call anyway. So make sure that your energy, your voice, your tonality, your attitude is at your highest game, because this is your job right now to impress the interviewer. So many times people answer the phone and I'm just thinking, did they just wake up? Are they, where are they? It's just, and there's all these things start going through your brain instead of just focusing on, what are we going to talk about, right? So that's the first thing. That's going to separate you with so many people. Bring that on, especially if your phone is not your strength. And I know this day and age, we don't really talk on the phone that much, but this is your opportunity to really start impressing your interviewer. Number 2, be prepared. I talked about this in my 4th video, but that is super important. You don't want to ask questions. What is this position about? What is this company about? This is old news. You need to know what this is about. So kind of keep an eye. There's 2 types of interviewers. They will be ones will kind of ask you general questions that normally people ask, in the interview process. And the other type of interview, they may throw you off and ask questions that you're not prepared to talk about. But no matter what they ask, your agenda for this call is to show them how qualified you think you are for this position. So go through the job description up until the call before your interview and see what are the key components of the position. So, if they don't ask you the question, how does your experience meet the criteria, you're still prepared to talk about it because you really want to start telling them why you are a good fit for this position. So if they ask you, tell me about yourself, have that job description next to you and say, well, here's what I can tell you. I've done this and this and this, and this is what you guys are looking for. So start matching what are they looking for with what you've done that you think is relevant. And if there's nothing relevant, it's your job before the interview, prepare on kind of make those connections. And the easier you make it, the better the interview is going to go. So bring your energy, make sure you're prepared, and you start connecting the dots for the interviewer of what you believe, why you believe you're a good fit for this job, right? So if they're asking you additional questions, that should be pretty easy and straightforward. If they're asking you questions that you're not prepared to talk about, make sure in your own mind you've got the agenda. No matter what they're saying, is you got to cover and make sure that you address how you think you match the job. That is super, super huge. The other thing is make sure your answers are pretty short, but not too short. You don't want to be one of those people that just goes on and on and on and you kind of waste your time. So a good rule of thumb is determine up front how much time you actually have. When the interviewer, they should tell you, we've got 30 minutes, we've got 20 minutes, we've got 15 minutes. And if they don't, just say, hey, out of respect, how much time do we have? I want to make sure that, we address everything you need to address. That's a really good idea to kind of ask about that. And then the third thing that will separate you at the end of the actual interview, however long it takes, if the person asks, if they don't tell you what the next step is, and they're wrapping up the call and they're rushing or trying to get off the phone, it is your job, and it will separate you from a lot of other candidates, to ask at the end, hey, I've got a question for you. How do you think I did? What do you think about my candidacy for this position? Get their feedback. You will be amazed at how few people actually ask for it, and it actually showcases you that you're curious, you want to learn, you want to get feedback, and that is huge, right? As a potential team member for this company, they want somebody who will ask questions and who will be curious and wants to improve. So those are the three things. Make sure your energy is on and you make that first impression the way you want it to be. Make sure you're prepared and you're matching the job with your qualifications and the job's criteria, so you make it easier for the interviewer. And at the end, ask how you did and what the next steps in the interview process are. And once you hang up the phone, make sure you send the follow-up note and tell them just how much you want the job. And ideally, you also tell that on the call. I hope that goes without saying, that you really want to make sure that they're clear that you really are interested in the job, if you are. And at the end, with a note. That's a very nice touch. On that note, that's all I have for you today. If you have any questions, shoot me a note and we'll go from there. I'll see you guys next week with the next video, and good luck out there.